And hello, it's David Boles, live with you. It's 9 a.m. on the East Coast. Good morning, wherever you are in the world. Good afternoon, good evening. And I do bid you a good day. Well, the rains have passed here. No hurricanes. The nor'easter turned out to kind of be a Middle Easter, meaning nothing really happened. Good or bad, it just kind of rained a lot. And right now I'm holding thumbs, which means this, to see if everything is working. The music is there. I'm here. You can hear me. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Because yesterday I braved into the world of Monterey. Monterey is the name of the new operating system on my Mac. And you never know when you upgrade stuff what's going to break, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Until you do it. And so far so good, not one problem, which shocks me a little bit. I don't do betas. I used to live my life in beta land. Beta software, alpha software. And it breaks a lot of stuff, I tell you. But when you're writing books about computers, you're sort of required to take the plunge and install beta software. So today we have a busy day, interesting things going on, lots of topics for exploration. I'm always messing around with our music. This is Pretzel Rocks. What's too loud, what's not loud enough? So we're going to test this a little bit, see where we are with sound. Sometimes it's a little soft. I guess it depends on what song it is. If it gets too loud, you can jump into chat and say, turn down the music, it's too loud. But the music helps. By the way, the windows are open because it's very cool outside, 58 degrees. The wind is a little high, which is good when you have the windows open because it brings in the fresh air. So you might hear a fan, you might hear a siren, you might even hear the hot water machine that I just filled up ridiculously before I go live on the air with you as it sings its song saying the hot water is ready to be taken in. So it's kind of a wild and free-for-all day. So yesterday we started our conversation talking about Facebook and this whistleblower woman who I now refer to as the Facebook snitch. And even today, again, we have two big stories. This is 3 days in a row. Guns, fake bullets, Alec Baldwin, what's a blank, how everyone was scared for their lives, yet they still showed up on set and collected a paycheck. And these leaks about Facebook are becoming disturbing in the fact that it feels like you're reading a private diary. These are documents that have been leaked. I don't know if they're stolen, but they were not authorized by Facebook to be released on television and in the news. So you're reading about these internal conversations that are trying and difficult, and wrong decisions are made. We don't know about the right decisions are made because nobody reports on that. They only report on the failures. And so this Facebook snitch is having the time of her life, and she's so thrilled to be the center of attention. And no one seems to call her out on it. I think it's very weird. So on my Facebook page, I took a highlight. See, now the music's getting a little rowdy. I have to talk louder over the music. And I took a highlight from yesterday's long stream, cut it down into a highlight that I called the Facebook snitch, where I just kind of ranted for a little bit about what was going on with Facebook. And I got a lovely comment on my Facebook page that I'm going to share with you now because it kind of leads us into our next discussion today and where we're going. So let me see if I can find that for you. Here we go. This is my friend Susie. She commented on my Facebook page after she watched my Facebook rant. This is what it looked like on Facebook. And by the way, there was a bug yesterday with Facebook. I pinned this, and when you pin something on Facebook, it appears at the top of your stream with everything else below it. I do it almost every day, every other day. I pin something that I don't want to disappear in the stream that goes on. And yesterday, on my computer and other people's computers, I pinned this, and that was the only thing on my page for an entire day. And this morning I woke up and said, what is going on with my page? So I unpinned this, and all my other content showed up. I don't know if it was a bug or if now the new idea on Facebook is you pin something and it's there forever until you unpin it. I don't know. I also added my Human Meme podcast to my Facebook page, and that doesn't seem to have taken. It's there, I can see it. The tab doesn't show up. In my settings, it says it's all fine. I asked Facebook about it a week ago. They have not replied. So this was my highlight and my disgusted expression talking about the snitch. And here's a comment from my friend Susie. I'll read it to you. Susie said, you echo my sentiments about this. I wish that the narrative that we see on television would address how children are often shortchanged and or mistreated by the adults in their life. If the actual concern is, on Facebook and this whistleblower and this leaking, if the actual concern is about protecting children, where is there a snitch enlightening everyone to the effects of horrific parenting? So she took my inspiration and spun it out into an even bigger issue, and this was my reply to my friend Susie. Hello, friend. That is an excellent point. Too many children are abandoned today with no one to care for them or guide them. And so they turn to each other, to a wisdom they do not yet attach or appreciate, and they then move online together, and the world changes and becomes an unlimited pool for drowning and misuse. When we were younger, we certainly had more freedom to roam and to come and go as we pleased, but it was safer back then to do that back then because the community looked out for us. Now that local neighborhood on the street has been corrupted by the world online community, where everyone is out for something, and none of it is a good measure against the protection of our children who are still out there looking, roaming for meaning and definition without the supervision of an adult or a neighborhood to catch them when they fall. So I certainly don't blame Facebook for the negative effect it's having on children. I know they were going to create Instagram for children and then shelve that because of public outrage. And as Susie asks, where are the adults in this? Not necessarily parents, but often parents. In my experience in the educational realm over the last 30 years, you've seen a shift where parents used to protect and defend their children. Oh, do you hear that? That's the hot water singing at us. It's ready. It's tea time. Goes on for a little while. Now, if you can't hear this, I'm going to look weird, bobbing to the artificial tune of the music. So there used to be a time when parents cared about their children and watched them and would take care of what they did. They were the main point of education and wisdom and knowledge sharing with their children. And then something changed. And I don't know if it was public schooling or if it's just the idea of school, where the classroom becomes the babysitter and the parent, and the teacher is expected to teach the child about everything that goes on in the world. But not everything, because some parents don't want their children to know what's going on in the world when filtered through a teacher in a classroom. Perfectly understandable. So the parents get upset when they find out through their kids what's being taught or said, and they go and they fight with the parent, with the teacher. The parent fights with the teacher, and it becomes a big mess. And so teachers become quieter, but they're expected to be the primary parent in this new dyad between child and parent and teacher-parent. It's a little bit of a mess. And teachers get a lot of blowback from parents for not doing the right thing, for overextending, for explaining too much, for explaining not enough. It's a really vicious circle to be an educator today, especially in the younger elementary grades when the kids are so impressionable and you don't get a lot of parental support. So the kids turn to something like Facebook or WhatsApp or TikTok or Snap to stay in touch with each other, to learn things that they're not getting from home and things that they're really not allowed to learn in school anymore. And so we have these kids who are kind of abandoned and lonely and on their own, and they're looking for experiences, and some of the experiences are not necessarily a good influence on their mind and their bodies. And few people know that the brain doesn't stop developing, growing, until you reach the age of 26. So that means from when you're born to the age of 26, you don't know anything. You're not there yet. And yet we allow kids to drive cars at 16, to drink when they're 18. When I was younger, 18, 21. They're fully realized adults. You can sign a contract at age 17, 18. You're on your own. And you don't see a lot of kids raising their hand and saying, but my brain hasn't stopped developing yet. I'm not fully neurologically there until I reach the age of 26. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with people. Young people are wonderful, impressionable. They're still growing. And older people are all set up, hard as a rock in the head, and they know that they don't know anything. And young kids think they know everything because they have to. Because if they don't think they know everything, then the world is too terrifying. It's a coping skill. And also, why would you volunteer to hurt yourself in a war or doing a dangerous task unless you thought you were invincible? And that is the power and the curse of the young. So that's our Facebook rant for day 2 in a row. On Friday, we'll reach 2 weeks of this lovely stream. Now, when I was growing up, I was raised on radio. I've written a lot about it in my blog. And there was a thing called, in the 50s, sort of the 60s, called Boss Radio. It was personality-based, big in Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles, and in pockets. Boss Radio was all about telling stories, being loud, having fun. Terrestrial radio, right? Earth radio. Now we have satellite radio. Radio that comes to us from the sky on a satellite, down. And a lot of people say terrestrial radio, as we knew it growing up, is dead. And in many ways it is dead, although you'll find a lot of people who say it's not dead. But as far as boss radio goes and personality goes, and sitting and talking to someone for a couple of hours, without being outrageous or talking about sports or unending rage about politics, where you have music and you're talking about issues and you do the weather and maybe a little bit of football. We've moved away from that now, where it's just talk radio. Just get on there, yell about things, and the localness of terrestrial radio is also gone. There's a lot of syndication, where local stations now just repeat what's broadcast from New York with these big personalities. But when Boss Radio was happening, oh, it was fun. And there was a station when I was growing up in Lincoln, Nebraska, called, and it's back now, but it's not the same station. It was called 1290 Coil, Omaha's original rocker. And they had the reverb. This was still in the 80s. They had the reverb. They had the deep-voiced guys. They had the echo chamber. They were all about music. It was like living in the 60s, but in the 1980s. And it was really terrific. And I remember there was one interesting, I guess, promotion where they would say, in the old days, 20, 30 years ago, in a car, when you listen to the radio, you'd have to tune the radio with a knob. You'd have to it was mechanical. You'd have to move the knob back and forth. And there were like 4 or 5 physical buttons. They were thin buttons that you'd push, that you would set to your favorite station. And a lot of these stations would say in their promo, pull it out, meaning pull out the button. You could pull out the button, tune it in, tune to the station you're listening to, pull it out, tune it in, push it in. Then when you pushed the button in, you locked it into that station, and they wanted you to do that for every button on your radio. And then you would rip off the knob. Okay, it's a wonderful mental picture that radio was able to help you draw. Pull it out, tune it in, push it in, rip off the knob. Delicious. Also reminds me of one of my favorite locally produced radio commercials for ZZ Top. And I often find myself just muttering this throughout the day when I'm bored. And it started with LaGrange. That riff, that guitar riff. I can't play that here on this stream because I would get in trouble violating a music license. But imagine LaGrange, if you know that song. And then a deep-voiced radio announcer would say, ZZ Top, live and in person, this weekend at the Omaha Civic Auditorium. For those of you with Texas in your soul and dirt in your boots. And then it would give the information on where to get tickets. It was just so thrilling every time you heard it. And the best part was the Texas in your soul, dirt in your boots part. That was new. So when Coil Radio was Coil Radio, then, as often happens, they gave up their station name and their number on the dial like 20 years ago, and then they magically came back. But not as the original mighty 1290 Coil, but as a pale imitation of what they used to be, which was nothing of what they used to be. Yeah, I think they're talk radio now. No music, no rock. And that was big to have an Omaha's original rocker. 1290 Coil was the first rock and roll radio station in the Midwest in Omaha, Nebraska. So now I have to turn off my music so I can play you a little bit of something that I am allowed to play. And this is actually sort of a commercial, a jingle, if you will, from 1290 Coil. Now, jingles were little things that you'd play in between music, going into a commercial break, coming out of a commercial break. They set the tone. You'll sort of remember these. There were companies all around the United States who would get singers together and sing these little tunes. And they're beautiful singers, and they're melodic, and you would sing the jingle to yourself. So here's one example.
Mighty 1290 Coil!
Now, that was just a little bumper, fast. Now, here are some more Coil jingles that I've collected over the years. And they're all kind of bunched together, so they play one after the other. You would never do this if you were live on the radio back then. You would, play them intermittently throughout the day. But you'll get the idea of what we're missing in our lives.
The rock of the Midwest, Mighty 1290 Coil, more solid rock. Mighty 1290 Coil, more solid rock. Mighty 1290 Coil. Music Radio, KOIL, Omaha. The most music, KOIL. Music Radio, KOIL. Music Radio, KOIL. The most music, KOIL. The music sounds best on KOIL.
That's just terrific. And kids today, they have no idea what a jingle is, what that kind of thing is. The echo chamber. You can go on YouTube. There are also special audio places. You can go and listen to the old DJs from the 1970s and 1980s. And if you're looking, look for Los Angeles radio. Big. Terrestrial radio is very big in Los Angeles because everyone is in a car out there. So now we're going to discuss a bit about knives. Before I have a knife collection. I have several collections of many different things. Let me turn my music back on. And I'll take you through the history of my lovely knife collection. But first I have to give you a little bit of conversation. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Where are we here? Blame it on Monterey. There we go. To talk about knives. I love knives. I think they're works of art. They're also a utility that you can use every day to open all the packages that we get. However, knives are not really welcome where I live. If you live in the state of New Jersey, or if you live in New York City, you are not allowed to carry a knife. Now, technically, you can carry a knife if it's under 3 inches, but really, you cannot carry a knife in New Jersey or New York City because the reasoning goes it's very dangerous. Stick-ups, robberies happen with knives more easily than they do with guns. So I have all these lovely knives that I can't do anything with. EDC, that's a term, is everyday carry, EDC. Can't do that. There are places online where you can go and show your new knife. New, N-K, day, D. New Knife Day. I haven't done that a lot, but I do it in my mind. So, you cannot carry a pocket knife, let alone an outside knife, in New York City or New Jersey. Some places say you can wear a knife on your hip and it's not concealed, but you're still risking an interaction with the police that you don't want to have because you will not win an interaction with the police if they want to give you a hard time about your knife. What they'll do is they'll take your knife and say, let me hold on to this for you while we figure out if your knife is legal or not. And then you're never going to see your knife again. You can try to go to the station house, got to go to court, get a warrant. I haven't gone through all of this because I don't carry a knife, but I have friends who do. And it's a big hassle, and you never get your knife back. And if they decide to prosecute you for carrying a knife, they can, because switchblades, knives with springs like you see in the movie, those are 100% illegal. But so are gravity knives. Now, gravity knives are knives that are not spring-loaded, but that open, the blade opens by gravity. You hold it and it opens. Most people, when you think of a gravity knife, is when you fling it open with your wrist and it's a knife. Those are also illegal. But the trick is this. Any sort of folding pocket knife can be made into a gravity knife by the police. And how do they do it? Well, if you go to court because you're being prosecuted or because you're trying to get your knife back, I'll show you how they do it when we get to my knife collection. Well, actually, I'll show you right now. I'll show you one of my knives. This is one of them coming up. So this is not a switchblade. There's no spring. This is not a gravity knife, as you can see. However, there is a little thing here that you hold down, right? You hold this down, and then the knife pops out. The blade pops out. Okay. And then it's locked. The blade is locked. It's not a fixed blade. It's a locked blade. and you unlock the knife by pulling down this, and then the blade falls over. Okay. And the people who really love their knives oil these up, so the action is very smooth when it opens and closes. Well, the police can also oil your knife, and they can also practice in the hallway, I'm told, to make this knife into a gravity knife. And they put the police officer on the stand under oath testifying. Can you show us the gravity knife that the accused was using? And even though it's not a gravity knife, the live demonstration shows that it is a gravity knife. Because what happens is the officer holds the lock in the open position on the stand while testifying. And it's a gravity knife. Right? You're holding the knife. It's not a gravity knife. You unlock it with your fingers, testifying in court. And it's the definition of a gravity knife. And then you flick it open. Huh? Right, dangerous, right? West Side Story. Right there, on the stand. The accused, he has a gravity knife. It's not a gravity knife. It's a gravity knife. I just showed you it's a gravity knife. Now, there are knives that are harder to open than that knife. I'll see if I have one. Okay, like this knife is not a gravity knife. There's no lock to unlock it in this position, so it's already just by itself unlocked. You don't have to do anything, and then it locks into place here, right? And then you unlock it by pushing up and folding it back down. Okay? And one thing, when you have knives, you're going to cut yourself. A lot of bleeding going on. None of it's on purpose. So you have this knife that's technically unlocked, but it's not a gravity knife. But if you oil this up and you practice in the hallway before you testify in court as a police officer that this is a gravity knife, you can actually make this just snap down on its own and open as a gravity knife, even though it's not a gravity knife. So that's the lesson we have to learn, that any knife is a gravity knife. And now, my friend, before we get into the knife collection, it's time to take our blood pressure break. I'll be back after a little bit of pee time in just a moment. Back soon. And we're back from our break. Thank you for waiting for me. You have any questions, please join our chat. Ask us anything. Let's see if I can find a quote. Our chat bot is filled with quotes. Quotes that I put in there. Some of them I said, some of them I didn't. Here's quote number 5. Success is not a harbor, but a voyage, with its own perils to the spirit. Richard Nixon said that in his resignation as President of the United States. So we were talking about knives and the law, and how a lot of, especially people in New Jersey, are devastated that they can't carry a knife legally, although many of them do. And it is difficult to get your knife back once it has been confiscated for whatever reason. And as a friend of mine said about the police, and I support the police, I'm not against the police at all. When it comes to knives or anything else, you can beat the rap, but you cannot beat the ride. Meaning, in the case of knives, you might get your knife back, but if an officer decides that you're trouble, you're going to get in the car, knife or not, and go and get booked in, and you're going to spend the day in jail, getting processed. So you can beat the rap, but not the ride. So, as we get into our discussion about knives, guns are very illegal everywhere, on the East Coast especially, which is probably a good thing, even though they are everywhere. Here's another piece of advice that a friend of mine told me many years ago that I think is very important to remember when it comes to knives and it comes to guns. Knives are very dangerous, especially if you don't have one and one is being used or wielded against you. And unfortunately, because people fear guns more than they fear knives, people tend to want to fight someone who has a knife. And that's just the opposite of what you should be doing. And I'm not a self-defense expert, I'm just talking to you, sharing the information I know. You throw it away, you use it, whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you how to behave or how to react. I'm just sharing what I think that I might know. So the word on the street is, if someone pulls a knife on you, you run. The second you see that knife, you turn around and you go the other way. You don't try to take the knife from the person. You don't try to kick it out of their hand. You don't try to wrestle them, because you are going to lose. And a lot of people don't even know how to hold a knife. Here's my K-bar. This is my big knife that I'll use for demonstration purposes because you can see it online. Most people who don't know how to hold a knife like this. Ha! I'm gonna get you. Not good. Knife can be taken from you, but don't try to take a knife from someone. When you hold a knife, you hold it like this, with a fist. Then it cannot be taken from you very easily. And even if you have a pocket knife, same thing, okay? You don't do it like this. I'm fighting you, I have a knife. Taken right out of your hand. But, see this finger groove here? Put your finger right there. You hold it like a fist. Now that's a knife, okay? Not a Crocodile Dundee sort of knife, but a knife. That's a knife that can do a lot of damage to somebody. So if you ever have to have a knife, and you're stuck and you have to fight for your life, that's how you hold a knife. Now, the other thing about a knife is, if you cannot run from the knife, if you are forced to fight a knife, it's very dangerous again. And the advice I'm about to give you sounds very, very dangerous. But the question is, do you want this knife to go inside of you, or to slash you on the arm, or to smack you in the head? And you're probably not going to do anything if someone has a knife like this and is holding it properly for you to grab their hand if you're not an expert in self-defense, because the knife is still out there. So you're wrestling with the knife, and I'm getting stabbed, and the other person, you're getting stabbed, and everyone's bleeding on each other. So what I am told, and I have never done this or had to do this, but if I were in the situation, I would do this. That if you are in a situation where your life is at stake, and someone has a knife like this, or even a small knife, your best defense is to grab the knife. Like this. And you're saying, but if I grab the blade of the knife, my hand is going to get cut. My finger might get cut off. And that's true. But if you're now, so this is the bad guy with this here, and this is your hand here, and now you two are fighting over control of the knife, okay? And what you can do now is this. You can move the knife away from you. So it's not coming this way towards you. If you're like this, back and forth, the knife is cutting. But if your hand is over the knife, it's only cutting your hand. It's not going inside of you. So this is a last resort between life and death. You grab the blade of the knife with your hand, and you have to hold it very tightly because this hand is strong and they might just pull it out and slash you. So you've got to hold on and cover that blade with everything you have to protect yourself from harm. Now, the other bit of information I've been told by my friends in law enforcement is you run from a knife, and oddly, you charge a gun. Most people think just the opposite. You would charge a knife and run from a gun. And that's dangerous as well. I don't recommend it. I think if someone's trying to rob you on the street, give them what you want and be on your way. Some people say if someone wants your car, you take your car keys, you throw it over their head, so they have to turn around and get your keys, and you run the opposite direction. Some people say they want your wallet. You give them your wallet, you drop it on the ground, so they have to bend down, pick it up, you run the opposite way. So it's always better to escape. But if you are trapped against a wall, put in a corner, and someone has a gun on you, charge the gun, try to grab the gun, point it away from you, and try to get rid of the gun somehow, or get up and run. Now that's what I've been told by defense experts and police officers, and if you disagree with me, that's fine. If you don't agree with me, that's fine too. I'm not trying to give anybody any advice on how to survive. I'm just sharing what I've been told and what sort of makes sense to me. Although I hope I'll never be put in any of those situations. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my knife collection. And it's kind of in 3 parts because there are 3 eras of my knife collecting that's been going on for several years. And why do we collect? We collect to remember. We collect to celebrate beauty. I remember in the movie, I think it was Throw Mama from the Train. Danny DeVito, I believe, was in that movie. And his character was kind of a run-down guy, had a hard time in life. And he was showing his friend, was it Michael Douglas? Showing his friend his coin collection. So we, the audience, say, oh, we're going to see this wonderful coin collection worth millions of dollars. Neat, okay. And Danny DeVito pulls out about 3 or 4 or 5 coins from his pocket. And as an audience member, you're saying, wow, why is he showing us his change? It's not his change. It's what's important to him. The coins that he has collected. And then he tells us, this penny came from my father. This 5-cent piece was the change I got back from my first ice cream. And all of these things that have no inherent value other than change for most of us have all the value wrapped up in that character's coin collection. A collection of memories of moments in time. It was really beautiful writing. And excellently acted. So when you start a collection, you really don't know where to begin. You talk to friends. Sometimes you just buy what you think looks nice. And that's kind of what I did. So this is some of my first knives. This is a little tiny Kershaw. Very shiny, very small. Perfect little knife for your pocket, right? Till you move to New Jersey and New York and they say you can't carry a knife anywhere. Not even open a box. You can't have a box cutter on you in New York City. Or New Jersey, because it's considered a dangerous knife. Here's another knife, another Kershaw. Loved the Kershaws, the early Kershaws. Very shiny, very nice. Okay. Delightful blade. Just the perfect size to carry, even though you can't carry it. And I guess a lot of people carry knives and forget they have them on them, so when they're searched by police or they go into the airport to take a trip. Oh, what's this knife you have on you? What knife? It's my first little red knife. Very delightful. Pen knife, pocket knife, just perfect. But I'm telling you, if you got caught in New Jersey with this knife by a police officer, you'd be in trouble. They don't care what the size of the knife is, it's the idea behind the knife. Now, here we go with something that's just a little wild. The Kershaw. Very pretty. I believe I bought this one for my wife just because I love the look of it. It was so obnoxious, but yet very beautiful. I also have a spoon that looks like this that I used to eat my cereal. I can't remember what this style is called, but once you see it, you can't forget it. So those are the introductory knives. Fun knives, little pen knives you can carry around and do your daily duty. Then I got into defensive knives, more defensive knives. And they're more serious, they can do more damage for self-defense. And you've seen some of these already. This is a SOG. Cuts really well. Also, like can cut tree branches if you need to. It's a wonderful, very strong knife. You also met this knife. This is a Gerber. Right, very nice. Scales, excellent. Feel in your hand, how it looks. So, the early knives were for beauty and for ease of use. Now we're getting into serious protection knives. This is another SOG. I love the SOG knives. They're just, you can't beat them. They're very fast, opening. And what do you use all these knives for? Well, I use them to do lots of things. Sometimes to open boxes, sometimes to just open and enjoy. One day you hope that this is another Kershaw. One day you hope that the laws will change and you can take your knife out with you. Not to use it on anybody, but just to have a knife, because sometimes you need to open things. Now, this is Teflon. I kind of don't like this on a knife, and I have a couple who have it. Just because it gets dirty really easy, and if you use it to, do hard work, it tends to get scuffed up, which is fine if you're into that kind of thing, but I don't like dirty knives. And they really are a responsibility to keep them sharp and keep them clean, and I haven't been very successful with that, I admit. Here's another delightful SOG, again with the kind of Teflon coating on it that I don't like. For some reason, I'm really attracted to these SOG knives with the saw here. Very, very good for camping, cutting twine, cutting down cardboard boxes. And unfortunately, in New Jersey and New York City, that's kind of what you're limited to. You'll use these knives at home with the hope that one day you'll be able to take them out somewhere. Here's a Kershaw, again, with this flat black, which is nice for night. This is very good for, like, cutting papers, opening letters. Well, when you can't take your knife out and make it go to work for you every day, you have to find some use for it. And this is just a bizarre one. I don't know what I was thinking with this one. This is really sort of unlike me. It's another SOG. I think I was attracted by this, if I would ever be able to take this out into real life. It's a seatbelt cutter. that uses the blade of the knife to cut the seatbelt off of you. Now this, I'm not really a fan of this. It's painted on there. It's not part of the blade. But it's a big knife. Now we move on to the next iteration of my knife collecting. And these are a little more expensive, I guess you'd say, and maybe not as functional, more beautiful than carryable, which I think sort of reflects my experience in New York and New Jersey, where you really can't take your knife out to show it, so you have your knife at home, where you make memories with it all by yourself. Now this is and a lot of these, before we had a lot of Kershaw, early Kershaw SOG, now we're into Benchmade. Now this is a Benchmade bug out. And usually the scales are blue plastic. And I purchased these titanium ones and put them on myself. And this is just like everybody's who's into knives, kind of your favorite everyday knife. Bug out, it's very cheap, maybe $100. Cuts well. The blade is a little thin, but for what you want to use it for, which is kind of just everyday gross stuff, it's a wonderful knife. Now we're getting into more aesthetic designs. Okay, this. Delightful, right? Now we pull this out. Oh, now that's beauty. Now that design, if you can see it, is part of the knife. That is the metal of the knife. Oh, it's just beautiful to look at. Here's a really big knife, and I think that's why I bought it, because I just wanted a really, really big knife. This again is a SOG. Big knife. Look, put your whole hand in that thing. It's big. Big blade. See the Teflon thing again? Not a fan of the Teflon, but it's big. This is really good for puncturing cardboard boxes to get them ready for recycling. I also really like how SOG handles the unlock. It's this. You don't have to put your finger near the blade to try to get it to unlock. It's a little dangerous. It's another Benchmade with mother of pearl, abalone, in the scale. And again, you see this wonderful raindrop pattern in the blade itself. Absolutely spectacular. And so lightweight. I believe these scales are graphite, so it weighs absolutely nothing. And I love this. Again, pull down, unlock the blade. I would carry that every day if I could. Here's another Benchmade, just because what are you going to do? You love a Benchmade knife. Big, as you can see, this one gets used quite a lot. It's a brute. Stays very sharp. Doesn't need to be changed a lot. It is a little dirty though. Don't tell the knife people online, or I'll be in big trouble. It's a heavy-duty knife. Here's another interesting knife. Nice scales. I don't know. I don't think it's supposed to look like antler, but I don't think it is antler. SOG again with the mirror finish, and not the camo or the Teflon version. Very nice, smooth action. Okay, only a few more here. Oh, that one will save. This one will save. That one's unique. Okay, here we go. Another Benchmade. As you can see, I've taken a step up in my knife collecting, where I'm enticed by these beautiful raindrop style blades. I can't get enough of them. You look at them, and I can't get it in focus. And you're just mesmerized by the beauty of it all. graphite handles again. Titanium scales, a little bit of wood. This is it's smaller than you'd think, which makes it really nice. It's perfect for carrying every day, but of course, as you know, we are not taking this anywhere. Limited edition. Just so beautiful. Such a knife for a nice day. And now we get into kind of curious things, curiosities. This is my 2018 red knife. Every year you gotta get a red knife. Some people are snobs about them, but I think they're quite lovely. I think they're functional and easy to use and popular. Sure, why not? Put on a key ring. But just don't carry it outside. You're gonna be in big trouble with the police. This is my little Benchmade. Really not practical. Functional. What do you do with this knife? Now, this is not a switchblade. It's not a flip blade. It's not a gravity knife. However, see that? That's how you open it. You flick this little thing down. Oh, it's just delightful. And it locks into place. Snap. And it's this little tiny blade. Not really great for anything, really. It's just that it's a small size. It fits in your pocket well. And you can use it to open things if you want. First production. So nice. Beautifully made. Titanium scales again. It's heavy. Heavy. And this is what I don't like. You have to push this part over to unlock the knife. Put it back. Now this could probably be a gravity knife in a court of law. Now this is my most expensive knife. It's very plain, very ugly. It's Russian, my Shirogorov. And I just had to have one because they're really well made. The bearings inside are really, really interesting. It stays sharp forever. I rarely use it because I don't want anything to happen to it. Yeah, and you know it's a Shirogorov because of, where is it? The Russian bear insignia on the scale. Is it showing? Sort of. Not really. Need to get a bigger camera. But it's a bear. Beautiful knife, though. Oh. But hard to get. They're very limited, and they're very restrictive about how they sell, where they sell. Most of them are sold through, not raffles, not auctions, but if you want this knife that's coming in 3 months, you pay us a lot of money right now to hold your space. Now, here's my most favorite knife of all. It's very tiny. Fits in the palm of your hand. It's blue scales. It's Benchmade Gold. And again, it's that wonderful teardrop design. It's very sharp. It's so light, it doesn't even feel like you're holding anything in your hand. Oh, it just takes you back so far into what you want to do with your knife collection. My favorite knife. A little expensive. My gosh, just worth it. You just look at it. Makes you happy all day long. Okay. And my favorite thing, unlocking, pull down, bend. Now this, can you imagine this? Now, police officers know a lot. They know what good quality is. You're carrying this by mistake in your pocket. Police officers say, oh, look at this knife. You know, you can't have this knife, by the way. I believe this knife is just barely technically legal in a sense by not being too long in the blade. But a police officer said, oh, this is I like this very much. Put it right in your pocket. Not that a police officer would do that, but theoretically, you know what I'm saying, puts it right in your pocket. Oh, no, your knife's in my pocket. You can beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride. So, do you want to take a ride with me, or do you want me to hold on to this for you? You can pick it up later from the station. Right. It doesn't happen. Hasn't happened to me. I have knife friends. It's happened to them. Listen, keep all of your knives at home. K-bar again. Earlier in a demonstration, Every knife fiend has to have a K-bar. Lots of different sort of brands and styles out there. And this one does have the Teflon coating, the black coating, which I love in this knife. Just because it goes in and out of really heavy, hard, deep things very smoothly and without any kind of complication. Well, that's the knife collection. And my friend, it's time for one more blood pressure break. We're going to be back in a flash with more. Stand by. All right, we are back from the break. I'm cleaning up my pile of knives. I'm afraid one of them might open via gravity and stab me when I'm not paying attention. All right. So, why do people collect things? We collect things to remember. What is the difference between a hoarder and a collector? And some might say the amount of money spent. I don't know. If it's a mentality, I don't know if you've seen the television show Hoarders on A&E. I think there's a very fine line between people who collect and people who hoard. And a lot of hoarders, at least on television, tend to be living in very dirty, filthy places. So if they were a little cleaner and they saved every piece of paper that was ever brought into the home, would they still be considered a hoarder? I don't know. I do know that a friend of mine from way back had a father, very smart, university professor, who was slightly obsessed, I guess you'd say, with collecting, hoarding the items he ran into every day. And the example is this. Every day, this father would drink something with a straw. And at the end of every day, he would go home and go into a special room in his house and take the straw and line it up with the straws from the previous day. And that's how he would mark his day, with the straw that he used every day. Every day a different straw, every day a new straw in the pile. Now, is that something that's mental? Is that something that's a collection, a straw collection? Is that something that helps you mark the day? I don't know. It seems a little extreme to me. But there are people who do a similar thing. They write journals. They keep things that have sentimental value. They don't really have a economic value. It's a difficult thing to know. So do you invest in a knife collection? Probably not. Do you invest in a straw collection? You're spending a lot of money on the drinks to get the straw. It helps you remember, perhaps. But most people, I think, collect things to give them a sense of belonging when it comes to something that's beautiful. Most people don't tend to collect ugly things. Coin collecting is a very beautiful thing. Stamp collecting, very beautiful. Coin collecting, I'm told, is the third most expensive collection hobby. And the next question I always get is, what's the first? The first most expensive hobby is magic. Those tricks are expensive. People pay a lot of money to have their secrets kept close. So now we're going to take a small break. We've had a wonderful, successful first hour, and now it's time for our most favorite moment of humiliation. When the world turns into really bad chess. Oh yes, it's really bad chess with your friend and mine, David Boles. Today we're going back to our old nemesis, Chessable, which is where we learn things that we don't really want to know, but that we must know in order to continue our game. And the thing we don't like about Chessable is that these painful things are timed. When we do the puzzle of the day, we can chat about things, we can talk about strategy, we can draw on the screen. But with these lessons, they want you to learn within 60 seconds. And I think you can turn that off, but I kind of like the pressure. Although it's not great for a stream because I feel very rushed and very disconcerted. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying. So now we're black. Here we go. Black. What do I have to do? Black to play. Okay, they like it when you sacrifice. So I'm getting ready to sacrifice something. Usually my queen. Black to play. Okay. It's getting interesting. So this rook here looks obvious to go here. But then what protects? Nothing protects. Oh, well, no, I was going to say go here and here. Then the queen puts the king in check, but then the rook would just take. Oh, that's dastardly. Although this could be interesting. This here and then here. As you can see, I'm running out of time. My timer is going down, and I don't think I've made the right decision, but I've got to make a decision. Oh, no. I'm just going to take with a rook. Oh! I didn't do it in time. I ran out of time. So the correct move was... put the king in check. But now this rook's just going to take my queen. They love a queen sacrifice. I've discussed this last week. I've discussed this week. I'm not learning my own lesson. These puzzles love for you to sacrifice your queen. And that's what's going to happen now. And I hate doing it because we like the queen. The queen is the most powerful thing on the board. So now I have to show them that I take the lesson and make that move and sacrifice my queen, and my queen gets taken by the rook. Now there are only 3 moves, so that's 1 move in this puzzle, so I have to make 2 more in order to satisfy the puzzle gods of Chesapeake. Well, okay, I love doing this, if I can. Here my bishop would go here and put the king in check. And then I'm forking this rook. So the king moves. I take the rook. I like that a lot. And if my bishop is here, it's safe. No one can take it. So I'm running out of time. So I'm moving here. I'm doing it. Hold your breath. Oh! I got that one right. But I can't bask in my glory like I can on chess.com because you can see my timer is running out. All right, so the king moved, put the king in check. So I want to take the rook. But I know it's not going to let me take the rook because they want me to put the king in check. I would normally take the rook with my bishop just because I like that. But the point of these lessons is to teach you to not like things, but to do the right thing. And the right thing they want me to do is to checkmate the king. And there is one and only one move in that book. That is this rook. Goes here, takes that rook. The king is pinned, cannot move. And I win the game. I'm running out of time. I'm doing it. I did it right. Sort of. 3 new moves. My accuracy was a terrible 66%, same as yesterday. Yesterday I got 100%, and then I busted my luck and tried it again, and I got a 66%. And it only took us 3 minutes and 21 seconds to solve that puzzle. I gained 90 stars. Now I can do it again. Do I risk it? Of course I do! Okay, now what am I doing? White to play. Okay. White to play. They want me to... Oh, it looks almost like the same puzzle, but reversed or something. Oh. So you get something right, sort of, and then they tease you by making you do it again, but in a different way that they think you're going to lose. I'm white, right? White to move? Okay. So, here we go. All right, so... Okay. They want me to sacrifice my queen, so I know it's going to be queen to here. And then this is going to take this, and then I have this protecting that, and I have that protecting this, and I think I have it all to do in 3 moves, but then this also protects this. So it might not be that. But I think it has to be that, and I'm running out of time. I'm not going to run out of time again. I'm doing it. Queen. Not the right hand. Can you believe that? The one time I try to learn my lesson and follow the game and sacrifice my queen, I am wrong. They want the bishop to move here to put the king in check. Okay. Okay. So now they're going to make me make that move. I'll make it. Okay, check. Okay, so now what? Now I only have 2 more moves. That's what's good about these puzzles, because I know exactly how many moves I need. On Chess24, on chess.com, a puzzle can go on for days. So if I move here and put the king in check again, then this rook will take. Right, and then I would put this rook down there, and that'd be check. Okay, I got it now. I understand the puzzle. So I am taking with this bishop, right? This bishop goes here. Yes. I am doing that, yes. Okay, yes, because I don't want to don't do the queen, because my queen protects the bishop. Okay, do it. Oh! I did it wrong. What's the difference? I don't see the difference. I just don't see the difference. Queen sacrifice wasn't in move 1, it was move 2. So now they're going to make me make that move. So I do it, yes, and you take my queen, okay. And then I move my rook down here, all the way down here. I think it would have worked fine with the queen. And then the king is in check, and this rook cannot move, because that would unpin this bishop. I'm doing the move. I'll do that move because I know that's the right move. I'm protesting. I'm silently protesting because I believe I could have made it work the other way. But I'm a sport. I'll play along. Thank you. Oh boy. 3 new moves. My accuracy this time is down from 66% to 33%. Which means out of 3 moves, I got 1 right. This time, again, 3 minutes, I gained 90. Very painful. So, I think I've had enough of that, really. Now, one thing about Chessable is you can bet. If you do a little puzzle, a little learning every day, you get credit for it. And you can wager rubies, which I'm going to do, again, because if you log in for 7 days in a row and wager 7 rubies, you can get 7 rubies back for those 7 days. It's called, right here, double or nada. Do you think you can keep a streak going for 7 days in a row? If you do, young man, wager 7 rubies here. Well, I have 1,040 rubies. I don't mind. I'm going to wager that for the next 7 days, I can show up with you by my side. I don't have to win, but if I show up and do it, I get a credit. I accept the challenge. So there you go. So now we're active. Right here, right? See? In the button. Active 0 of 7. And every day we check in, it's going to tell us how many days we are active. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then day 7, we get our 14 rubies. So, I feel successful. But I'm done with that for now. Yesterday we played Lee Chess and won. Now we go back to Chess24 to face our fate in today's puzzle. Today is the 27th. Oh boy, here we go. Now this is better because we can work on this a little longer. Pawn with the wind. That means this is a pawn puzzle. That means you're going to want to move your pawns in order to beat the puzzle. We are black. Black to move. A lot of people don't like pawn endgames. I do. The middle game is where you really get stuck. Openings, calling openings, I have discovered that I don't do well when I try to memorize an opening and just make the moves. I find that I do better when I study the moves for black or white, make a couple of moves, and then looking to see what my opponent is doing instead of just blindly moving my first 10 moves. I find that works better. Now, I don't know what things are called. I just know, oh, that's a threat, or I know I need to do something because that got moved there, even though it's out of sequence. And an endgame is really about it's counting numbers. What do you have, and what do they have, and how do you get there? And getting your king involved. It's the middle game where things get a little sticky, where you're not ready for the endgame, and your openings are out the window. So, this is a middle game puzzle. You know how I'm going to do before we even start. Now, what I see here immediately is this pawn right here is in a great position to go forward one and attack that bishop. Is it going to be possible? I don't know. I'm not good at these puzzles. But if this is a pawn game, that tells me this has to be something to do with a pawn. What pawn can I move that will have any effect on anything? And if I do move that pawn there, my bishop is protecting it. Now, I don't want to move my bishop there, because that then we'll swap bishops. But if I move my pawn there, then that bishop has to make a decision. So I believe that is the first move, but let me keep looking, because I never know. And I always think I'm smarter than I really am. And when I'm live streaming, I get very nervous. When I'm here by myself, with fewer lights on, I'm a much better chess player. But this is a better simulation for real life. Now, I may be getting tied up in the name, Pawn with the Wind. I may be putting too much credit in that, but in my experience, I don't think I am, because they love to mislead you with a title. But I do like that move, because I can't move this pawn. This pawn can't move. This pawn moves. They'd like you to threaten things in puzzles. Nothing's threatened. This pawn doesn't threaten anything. This pawn doesn't threaten anything. This pawn isn't threatening anything. This is the only pawn I have that really does anything, which doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But I'm doing it. Hold your breath. I did it right. So the title of the puzzle was a clue what you're supposed to do. Now, to me, that means the pawn with the wind has to continue, which tells me that I probably need to continue and maybe make that pawn take that bishop. But that might be a trick, because this bishop didn't move. This bishop stayed right there. This bishop could have moved right there, not to be taken by the pawn. So something else is going on. So let's see. So that bishop moved from here to here. Okay. And now that bishop can go here. Right, which doesn't really bother me, because if it tries to move there and then check my king, I can just move. Maybe. But maybe I can't, because if I move, where can I move to? Well, I can move this way. Okay, never mind. Now this bishop can go here, take that pawn, and put me in check again. A wooden shield, if you will. And I don't have a lot of bishops. Pawn with the wind. But if I take this, pawn takes takes that bishop, I'm not really doing anything, am I? I'm just taking a bishop. I'm not putting the king in check. Let me get a little positive affirmation here. F4 is correct, in green. Thank you very much. That helps me. The idea is to get the king. The idea is not to get a bishop. But the bishop is just sitting there. It's awfully, awfully tempting. And it would get rid of a big piece on the board, and it would free up this bishop to maybe create its own wooden shield. But not there, because it would be taken by that one. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Pawn with the wind. Whoops, don't move that. So this pawn can't go anywhere. This pawn doesn't do anything. None of the pawns have changed except this one. I'm just gonna take it. Oh! See? I read too much into the title. Pawn with the wind. Oh, I'm in big trouble now. Incorrect. There's a better move. Try again. And then they let you cheat a little bit where you can watch a video where they're going to explain what you've done wrong and how to beat the puzzle. That, to me, is cheating. I'm not doing that. Now, if people want to help out in chat, that's different altogether. I would take that help. Because that's conversation. Okay. So, that wasn't the right answer. So, I have to clear all this somehow. Why is this not clearing? So I took back the move. I'm not going to win the puzzle of the day. Oh, it's terribly bothersome. So I have to move something else. Well, if it's pawn with the wind, this has got to be something to do with pawns. So I know it's not moving this pawn up. I can't get rid of my... I'm not able to get rid of my arrows for some reason. I don't know what's going on. But if I move this pawn up, then this bishop takes my rook. That's not the move. Moving this pawn doesn't do anything. Moving this pawn does protect that pawn. Well, I don't know. Pawn with the wind. I need to be attacking the king, though. That's the problem. There's no way to attack. Oh, I don't know. I broke my spirit and moved too. Well, I'm just gonna move this rook and see what happens. Okay, that wasn't right, so I'm going to get a hint. I don't mind a hint. A hint is not cheating. Watching the video is cheating. Alright, so it's this rook. I moved the wrong rook. So this rook... I can't get rid of my arrows for some reason. Hikaru would be very disappointed in me. So it's this rook that has to move. So, where's it going to move? I would move it here to protect that pawn. No. Well, now I'm getting a little lost. It's not going to go here. It can only go here or here. What difference does it make? Now I can go down here and tell it to move it for me. I can get a hint and then, but that is super cheating. Then you're not doing the puzzle. Then you've totally given up. And I have done that in the past, by the way. But not today, not with the pressure on. The world is watching the live stream. Really bad chess. Well, I'm just going to move it down because what's the point of moving it back? I'll move it here. No, so the only thing it could be is here. Oh. Which does fit with pawn with the wind. So this rook is protecting. Here we go again. So this rook is protecting this pawn. Why? I don't know. I don't know the answer. But that move did force this bishop to move here, which now tells me that I want to move this pawn here, which is now safe to do because this bishop cannot take this rook because I just moved the rook here to protect this pawn and get out of the way of the bishop. I guess that's what's going on. I don't know. I'm doing it. I got it right. I'm not laughing, I'm crying. So, pawn, and now they move their pawn. This puzzle's going on for quite a long time. How many moves have we made? 3 correct moves, and we're not done with the puzzle. And we have not yet put the king in danger. Now, I think I want to take this pawn and take the bishop finally. The puzzle would not allow that earlier, because then this rook becomes a free wheeler-dealer to go here, and this bishop can't take it because they just put the pawn in the way. Pawn with the wind, by the way, in case you're just joining us. That's the clue to our puzzle, and I'm doing it. Success that feels like a loss. Well, that's what you get. Then we take our final break of the day, and we come back, and we have even more fun. I'll be with you in a moment. Stay right there. And we are back from the break. Thank you for sticking around on David Boles Live. If you would like to follow this live stream, we would really appreciate it so we can take the next step up. Doesn't mean money, but it means you get a little more juice, a little more muscle with Twitch and YouTube when you get more followers. If you have something you'd like to say, mention, please do it here in chat. Or you can find me online on Twitch at David Boles. You can send me a little email. You can send me a DM. You can find me on Facebook, fb.com/BOLES, Boles, to say hello. Time for another quote. This is our wonderful chat bot who gives us our songs and little notes during the day. Quote number 18, when good dies, we all must work together to fill the hole left behind. Love that quote. Quite delightful. I believe I wrote it. Most of them, I do write most of them. So we've talked about collecting, we talked about knives, we talked about the police, we talked about testifying in court, we played a little bad chess, and now I'm going to share with you an interesting sort of story that has to do with learning and aging and opportunity, and how so many of us have a great opportunity that we fight for and that we don't take advantage of. So several years ago, I was teaching at a major university on the East Coast, and this happened to be a state school. And as part of their mandate, they were required to allow old people, whatever, people of a certain age, to take classes on any campus that they wanted to, if the class was open. And they had to provide proof of age, Social Security number. It had to be checked so they would be verified. And I happened to be the target of opportunity. Remember, you run for the knife, charge a gun, and I'm joking now, run away from old people who want to audit your class. These particular people decided they were going to audit my class. And so they knew their rights, they had done their research, and by God, they were getting into my class. And it was a low-enrolled class, so they knew that. And so they went through the registration process with the registrar and human resources. And because they were taxpayers, they were able to take the course. And they had to provide proof of age and residency. And they refused. First of all, first red flag that I didn't know about until later. But they refused. They said, look, we're old, we pay taxes. Our driver license is enough. We don't have to provide our Social Security. We don't have to provide proof of residence. Even though they were required for them to audit the class. And so human resources or whatever, registrar said, okay, just go. Get away from me. Go to Mr. David. So these old people show up for class, and I'm an old person too. I'm not as old as they were, but I'm 56. I believe the age for them to take the class was 75. So they were older. And I had never experienced this in 25 years of teaching at 10 different colleges all over the East Coast. So I talked to the registrar and I said, I don't know what this is. Who are these people and what are they doing in my class? And it was explained to me that this is the system, taxpayers, part of the deal, they can show up and take a class. And I said, well, what do I do with them? Because I've had a class with them and they interrupt, They don't follow the social norms of the classroom. They don't think they have to. Are they part of a class? Or when I was growing up, if I audited a class, you sat in the back quietly and you paid attention to the instructor and you were there to learn and to have things wash over you. And the registrar told me that there are two choices. They can either be a full participant in the class, where they raise their hand, they get handouts, they take exams, they're part of the presentation. However, they don't get a grade because they're auditing the class. They're not paying for it, they're not getting credit for it, they're just in class. And the other option was the option that I was familiar with. They just show up every class period. You can't skip a class period when you're auditing. Sit in the back, be quiet, pay attention. You're not involved, you don't ask questions, you don't answer things, you don't do presentations, you just sit there. And I said, okay, well, which one are they doing? And he said, well, I don't know, that's up to you and them. I said, okay. And I knew I was in trouble because I did not have the support of the registrar or human resources or whatever they were, and these old people had already broken the rules. They didn't want to provide proof of age and residency. So after the next class, I sat down with them and said, hey, you're taking the class. I'm happy to have you here. We have plenty of room. How do you want to be involved with the class? Do you want to sit in the back like I was raised? Oh, no. No. We're part of the class. You can't put us in the back row. I'm not trying to put you in the back row. I'm trying to figure out what you feel comfortable doing. Oh, we're involved. We're going to ask questions. We're going to answer questions. We are going to be just like these 18-year-old students. Okay. And I said, well, you're going to do presentations. Of course, presentations. And homework. Yes, the homework, of course. And are you going to take the exams? Well, I guess. But why would we if we're not getting a grade? And I said, well, why would you be involved with the class and do the homework if you're not getting a grade? Okay, we'll do the presentations. And the exams, because you want the future. Yes, the exams, everything, we're going to be there. Okay. So the next class period, they don't show up. The next class period, they don't show up. Then they show up. And we're talking about something very specific, and when I teach, I have a plan. We go step by step, we take a break, we come back step by step, we do this, we do that. This is what we learned at the end of the day. Well, they thought that they were teaching the class, and they were setting the agenda because they were old and they had paid taxes in order to take this class, to audit this class. And so there was some tension right at the beginning because they're trying to tell me what I'm going to teach them, and I'm trying to tell them, I will help you understand what you need to understand, but we're talking about something totally different because you came into class late and you made a lot of noise, and I'll speak to you on the break. But now is not the time to have that conversation. Well, they're insulted. Well, oh, I'm old, and I have the right to be here, and you can't tell me what I can say and what I can't say. Okay, there are people like that in the world. And this was, 10, 15 years ago before we really have bad behavior now that's everywhere, where you don't tell anybody anything, or you're impeding on their rights to know and their way of life. So on the break, and as I tell my students, when we have a break, the break is not just for you to go to the bathroom, the break is for me to get a little something, water, and to go to the bathroom. But it rarely turns out that way for the instructor. So if you're ever in a class and you're on a break, don't go up and talk to your instructor. Let your instructor leave the room and go to the bathroom and come back later. So on my break, I had a conversation with them and said, I'm a little confused. I don't care if you're trying to supersede my authority in class, but you are speaking out of turn and there are other students speaking and you're interrupting them to be heard. And you're not really taking this class for a grade like they are. Their scholarships are in danger. They care about their grade. You're just kind of here to entertain yourselves. And they said, well, that's true, but we need more attention because we're older. I said, that's fine, but we have to do it in a sequence that makes sense because there are 18 students in class, and you are 2, husband and a wife. So the 2 of you can't overrule the rest of the 18. Okay, that's fine. We didn't understand. And I said, by the way, please come on time for class like the rest of the students do. And please don't skip a class because the questions you're asking me today are things that we covered in the last 2 sessions that you did not show up for. Oh, we weren't feeling well. Okay. I said, do you really want to continue taking this class as a student? Or would you prefer just to come and go as you please, let things wash over you, sit in the back, don't sit as part of the group, because we break into groups, you're not here, the groups are not the right numbers. No, we're not going to sit in the back. You're not putting us in the back. We're in this class. Well, I appreciate your rededication. Thank you so much. And we think you're a genius teacher, so don't worry about us. You just keep doing your thing and we'll do your thing. Okay. So the class progresses and they're still interrupting. They're asking questions that are not on the board. They're talking about things that are not on the presentation sheet. But I've resigned myself to that. And sometimes I have to tell them just, we're not doing that now, which creates tension for the other students because they're like, what do we do? We're not talking about that, but they're talking about it. And it turned out that every assignment, every piece of homework, and every midterm test, pop quiz, and final exam we had, they either did not show up for class, or when it was time to do it, they picked up their things and left. So that's, I guess, trying to have it both ways. We're not sitting in the back, we're sitting in front, but we're not going to do anything we have to do in order to, quote, pass this class as a student, even though we want you to consider us a student because we are prime important, because we're old and we pay our taxes. So the students were aware of this tension, and some of them asked me during class, where are they? Why are they not here? And I said, I don't know. They're supposed to be part of the class. They're the other half of your presentation. I will step in for them and help you. This is not going to harm your grade. But they had been practicing with them, preparing with them, and they never showed up. So it makes you wonder. So at the end of the class, the last week of class, they just never came again. They did never show up. We never heard from them, and the rest of the class finished fine. All the students did really well. But it was still just a really bad experience for the students who were disrupted and annoyed. I'm sure it was a bad experience for the old people because they either couldn't get caught up or they didn't feel confident in the assignments and the presentations, so they stopped coming, and it was difficult for me because I felt I was stuck in the middle between me and the registrar. But it makes you wonder about people who agree to one thing and then do another. People who try to get over on you by gaslighting you and telling you, oh no, I've been there the whole time. I understand everything perfectly. And you wonder where they come from and what effect, as we talked about on Facebook, that these old people had on other people throughout their lives. Were they that kind of impossible and indefensible and annoying their entire life, or is it something that just happened when they registered for my class? And it makes you wonder also if they have children. I don't know. What kind of parent were they? Did they overrule their kids? Did they teach them to stand up and fight the authority? Or were they just kind of hands off? You do whatever you want, let us know what you're doing. You won't be graded on it because we don't believe in grading. I don't know. But if you take a class and you decide to have an education and to make a difference in your life, to collect information, as we have done on this live stream, what do you do with it? How do you organize it? My knife collection is early knives, middle knives, beauty knives. Early knives were functional, middle knives were protection, third stage, beauty. So you take a class, and one class builds upon another class, experience builds upon another experience, creating an illusion of knowledge and wisdom that you then put to test against real-world values. And you find out very quickly that the real world doesn't have a lot of values. A lot of laws, a lot of norms, a lot of expected behavior, but not a lot of reliable morality that can be checked. And if you're teaching someone something, and they say, we're 100% with you until we decide you're not, what are you going to do about that? How do you handle that kind of personality? The sabotage personality. It's not me, it's you. I'm not crying, you're crying. It's not getting dimmer in here. And the whole idea of gaslighting, of saying something that isn't true to convince another person that what you're saying is true, is very interesting. And Gaslight was an old movie. The origins of the idea of gaslight are this. In that movie, a husband wanted to murder his wife. And he decided in order to do that, he had to trick her, to make her doubt herself, to make her doubt reality. And so every day in these old-fashioned houses where the internal lighting was not electric but gas, and you would turn up the gas to make the light brighter, and you would turn down the gas lamp to make it darker. And this guy wanted to get rid of his wife, so he decided to drive her to the point of suicide. And he had the clever idea that doing that would be manipulated by the gas in the lighting inside the home. And every day, as the sun went down, he would turn the lights on in the house, the gas lights, and then every day he would turn it down just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. So every day, over a progression of time, the room got darker and darker and darker and darker, harder to see. And the wife would say, "Is it getting darker in here?" And the husband would say, "What are you talking about darker? We have gas lights. It's dark outside. It's light in here. Look, we have gas lights." And the next day, he'd turn it down a little more. And a couple of days later, she'd say, I'm having a hard time seeing you. It's dark in here. And he'd say, "It isn't dark at all. What's wrong with you? You need to get your mind checked. It's perfectly light." And he kept doing that, and she doubted herself. And she came to the point where she became insane. She couldn't see anybody in the room because it was so dark. And she killed herself. The husband won by gaslighting her. That's where the term comes from. So how do you deal with people who tell you one thing and do another? I'm going to be in every class. I'm going to show up. I'm going to get an A in this course. You grade me as if I'm a student in this course, and I want to know my final grade. Until I don't. I'm going to be there every single day until I'm not. I'm going to tell you the truth until everything I say to you is a lie. And that is a trick of living, is how do you figure out who's gaslighting you, who's being real with you, and you often don't know. And when you're young and naive and your brain is growing and you're not yet 26 years old and your brain has stopped evolving biologically, you're in a world of hurt. Because people can take advantage of you and intentionally turn down the lights on you. And it's your fault, not their fault. So this is the end of the stream today. I appreciate you being here. I hope I will see you again tomorrow. Maybe you'll come and chat. Put a little something up there so we can have a conversation, so I'm just not here lecturing. Get out of the back of the room. Come forward. Tell the registrar you're going to be a full participant in David Boles Live. I'm happy to have you. Take care. I'll see you again very soon. Be in touch. Find me. Because I can't always find you. Be well, my friend.